Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Janice Cobham, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari launches project monitoring app, iMac. London court denies a Ekweremadu bill. Plus, U.S. House panel set to release Trump's taxes in the coming days. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Thanks for joining us. First in the news this afternoon, President Muhammadu Buhari has launched the National Monitoring and Evaluating platform named iMac. Buhari launched the project monitoring website www.imac.ng with its accompanying mobile app shortly before the commencement of the weekly Federal Executive Council (FEC) meeting at the Council Chambers Presidential Villa, Abuja. He said that the app is for monitoring and evaluation of government projects. The president said the federal government can no longer depend on its handful of monitoring and evaluation teams to oversee the vast number of infrastructure projects spread nationwide. In another development, presently, the project, which is expected to be funded by domestic borrowings, will increase the budget deficit to 8.17 trillion naira. According to a letter read by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, the supplementary budget is to address food security following devastating floods across the country, as well as damage to the road infrastructure and water sectors. The President said the supplementary budget is premised on the need to complete ongoing critical federal government projects, such as dams and irrigation projects. The President said he would revert to the National Assembly with a request for an amendment to ensure that critical ongoing projects cardinal to his administration do not suffer a setback as a result of reduced funding. Moving away from that now, the Central Criminal Court, London, also known as Old Bailey, has again denied bail to former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu. In the pre-trial hearing, the court gave its verdict denying the bail on the grounds that he was a flight risk. It was learned that in the bail application, Ekweremadu's lawyer had argued that the Nigerian High Commission to the United Kingdom and the Attorney General of the Federal had written to the court that Ekweremadu was not a flight risk. Meanwhile, the federal government has said it was working to ensure that all local and international oil companies return to full capacity production of crude oil. A team from ENISPA said that the federal government would continue to improve security along the tracks of the major crude oil pipelines and block every leakage. Silva was quoted in a statement issued by his media aide, Horatius Egua, saying the desire of the federal government was to see all the oil majors across the country return to the full production capacity to boost revenue for the government and also to help the country meet its Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries obligation. Recall that major oil producers in Nigeria have drastically cut down on crude oil production. The decision of the oil companies have affected the volume of daily crude oil production, leading to humongous revenue loss for the country. In the meantime, the federal government has said it is putting measures in place to stop cash withdrawals from bank accounts belonging to the federal government, states and local governments. The Director General and Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, Modibo Tuku, said this at a parley with the chairman of the Independent Fuel, Ahmed Diko. Tuku further stated that most cash withdrawals from government accounts, including payments for ESTA codes, are often in excess of the cash withdrawals limit provided by the Money Laundering Act, therefore exposing public servants to being liable to imprisonment. Native has insisted that the Central Bank of Nigeria must not proceed with its cash withdrawal policy. Although the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, for the second time failed to appear before the House, the lawmakers said their December 8 directive to the Apex Bank to put the policy on hold had not changed. Amid protests and condemnation, the lawmakers rescheduled the CBN Governor's appearance for tomorrow, Thursday. However, the Apex Bank had not circulated any counter-directive to banks and other financial institutions stopping the policy, despite the resolution of the lawmakers. In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has transmitted the Finance Bill 2022 to the National Assembly as the Federal Parliament is billed to pass the 2022 Appropriation Bill by letter of the President on the bill, noting that the federal government proposed expanding the tax net and more equitable revenue sharing formula and allocation to state and local governments. Meanwhile, the House Committee on Appropriation is expected to lay its report on the 2023 Appropriation Bill today. Passage of the federal government's budget is expected to have used the proceeds to fund the 2023 budget. Parties in the deal reached the agreement last week after over 2 years of disputes and legal tussle as regards the sale of the NIPP plants being managed by the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC, which is a power generation and distribution company that oversees the implementation of the NIPPs in Abuja, where he also revealed that efforts were ongoing to get competent investors to propose to repurchase the majority shares in the other 4 discos that were recently taken over by financial institutions. And in education, the federal government has directed polytechnics, monotechnics, and other allied institutions to stop institutions in a circular. In a copy of the document signed by the board's director of Polytechnic Programs Department, Ogo Ngbede, which was obtained by newsmen, expressed the Federal Ministry of Education's dismay at the increasing number of tertiary institutions in the country offering programs for which they were not originally designed. He, however, said the government has given the affected institutions 4 years to graduate the last set of students already. We move to Taraba State now, where the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Joseph Albasu Kunini, today resigned. The House immediately elected the member representing the Zing constituency, John Kizito Bunzina, as the new Speaker. Kunini was elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party in 2019. Issues among the members of the House. Away from that, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC Chairman Abdul Rashid Bawa has hailed President Muhammadu Buhari on the corruption fight in Nigeria. Bawa presented the country's statement at the ongoing first ministerial meeting of the Anti-Corruption and Law Enforcement Authorities of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation (OIC), founded in 1969. The OIC is an intergovernmental organization consisting of 57 member states. 48 are Muslim majority. The 2022 gathering in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, endorsed the Makkah al-Mukarramah Convention, which expects members to prioritize intra-OIC corporations. Bawa said corruption has no borders and affects all countries, urging governments to strengthen their now where the Department of State Services DSS today said it has arrested 2 suspects over the attacks on Independent National Electoral Commission INEC officers in Imo State. The State Director Wilcox Ndanima Nabor said the agency has disclosed scams at Osu from where the hoodlums launched attacks. He spoke in Owerri at a meeting with the resident electoral commissioner, Professor Sylvia Uchenna Agu. According to him, the raids led to the arrest of a leader and financier of the hoodlums in Osu. We move now to Africa, where a parliamentary committee in the Gambia has recommended prosecution of the Indian manufacturer of cough syrup suspected of causing the death of at least 70 children in the country. It said Maiden Pharmaceuticals should be held accountable for exporting what it called contaminated medicine. Recall that the WHO had issued an alert in October advising regulators to stop the sale of the syrups, although Maiden Pharmaceuticals had denied the allegations. After weeks of investigation, the Gambian parliamentary committee has now recommended that authorities should take tough measures, including banning all Maiden Pharmaceutical products in the country and taking legal action against the firm. In its reports, the committee said it is convinced that Maiden Pharmaceuticals is culpable and system, urging the government to strengthen it and provide better equipment and medicine to the country's hospital. On the foreign scene now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will reportedly pay a dramatic surprise visit to Washington today, using his first trip outside his homeland since it was invaded 300 days ago to rally his top international partner behind sustained military and economic assistance. Reports say he will visit the Oval Office in the afternoon for extended talks with U.S. President Joe Biden, who will announce he is sending nearly $2 billion in additional security assistance to Ukraine, including a summons of Congress on Capitol Hill in prime time. The visit by the Ukrainian leader to Washington, expected to last only a matter of hours, nonetheless amounts to a remarkable moment 10 months since Russia's war in Ukraine began. And still on the foreign scene, the Democratic-led House Ways and Means Committee has said it would release former President Donald Trump's tax returns within days and asserted that the IRS failed to properly audit the former president's taxes while he was in office. The committee also released a report that details 6 years' worth of the former president's tax returns, including his claims of massive annual losses that significantly reduced his tax burden. Chairman Richard Neal and fellow Democrats said that the records they obtained showed that the required audit of Trump's taxes did not occur, as his returns were only subjected to the mandatory audits once in 2019 after Democrats inquired. Reports say the committee also released the supplemental reports from the Joint Committee on Taxation that included details of Trump's tax returns from 2015 to 2020 ahead of. And still to come in the news, Nigeria qualifies for 2024 Youth Winter Olympics. Do stay with us. Many thanks for still being there. Now to the rest of our story. On a business news, the Executive Secretary of the National Sugar Development Council, ZACH, Adedeji, has said the federal government is committed to using the Sugar Master Plan to reduce poverty and unemployment in the country. Adedeji state. Adedeji said that the investment by Brent Sugar was a demonstration by the federal government towards building a productive country. He said the government must do everything to get the private sector to venture into projects that will lift Nigerians, particularly the youths, out of poverty. Meanwhile, domestic airlines under the aegis of the Airline Operators of Nigeria (AON) have warned Nigerians of impending disruptions in scheduled flight operations due to the scarcity of aviation fuel, otherwise known as Jet A1. The AON, in a statement signed by its spokesperson Obiora Okonkwo, said the scarcity would force airlines to reschedule flights, leading to delays in the industry, especially at a time of mass movement of people for the Christmas and New Year festivities. In health, India's Federal Health Ministry has instructed state authorities to step up genome sequencing of COVID-19 cases because of a sudden sprout in cases in China, samples in order to track any new variants. Cases are soaring across China, with crematoriums and hospitals struggling to cope in the wake of the government's sudden decision to lift years of lockdown, quarantines and mass testing. Reports say genome sequencing can be used to identify and track COVID variants, adding that the United States had warned the outbreak is now of concern to the rest of the world, given the potential for further virus mutations and the size of China. We move to sports, where thousands of Moroccans thronged the capital to welcome home their national football team, the first Arab or African squad ever to reach the semi-finals of a World Cup yesterday. The team and their coach, Walid Regragui, waved from an open to bikes with flashing lights and wailing sirens. Reports say the crowd cheered and some waved flares as fireworks crackled in the sky over the seaside capital to welcome their heroes. The team headed to the Royal Palace, where they were received by King Mohammed VI, alongside Crown Prince Moulay Hassan, out Spain and Portugal to reach the last four. And still in sports, Team Nigeria has qualified for the curling event of the 2024 Youth Winter Olympics. This was made known by the president of the Nigerian Curling Federation, Daniel Damola, who confirmed the country's qualification for both the mixed and mixed doubles event. According to Damola, Nigeria's qualification for the Youth Winter Olympics was secured after the country became the sole participating team from Africa at the World Junior B crisis, since there has been zero sponsorship from government quarters, noting that more can be achieved if the federation gets the needed support. Reports say the 2024 Youth Winter Olympics is scheduled to take place in Gwangwon Province, South Korea, from January 19 to February 1. On our entertainment news, Nigerian musician Harrison Okiri, also known as Harrison, has welcomed his second daughter with his wife. The excited father announced this on his phone today at 3 a.m., revealing that she had been named Purity. And still on the entertainment scene, ace actor, director, and self-acclaimed finest man in Nigeria, Yul Edochie, has tendered a public apology to his first wife. Recall that he unveiled his second wife and fifth son in April. May had made her stance known following Yul's bombshell announcement. Pleading with his first wife in an Instagram post today, Yul said he has done so countless times. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do well to follow. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. Do enjoy.